on this episode of Edge of the Web.
So map out everything before and use your competitors to see what they're doing wrong and what they're doing right. Get ideas, successfully clues.
Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. You're listening and watching Edge of the Web. Hear and see more at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now, alongside Tom Broadbeck, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
Hey, welcome to a little bit later version of Edge of the Web Radio. Thanks so much for joining us. We're broadcast from Edge Media Studios, downtown Indianapolis. Every week we bring you the latest trends in digital marketing and marketing influencers. You can check out all of our recent shows at edgeofthewebradio.com. We're powered by Site Strategics, your digital marketing pioneers specializing in the agile marketing strategy and education as well. So if you're interested in what that means to your firm and your organization, just give us a shout at sitestrategics.com. That's SITE, strategics.com. My name is Aaron Sparks. I'm your host of the show, founder and CEO of Site Strategics. And to my left, we have Tom Broadbeck.
Hi.
Yeah, hello, sir.
Special happy hour show.
It's a specially happy hour show. I got no bourbon in front of me. But yeah, you're right. Special happy hour. And Tom is a digital marketing strategist as well as director of digital marketing. How about that? With Site Strategics and Edge Media Studios. So thanks for staying late on this fine Thursday evening.
Glad to do it.
Excellent. And we also have our guest on the line. That's Paul Klebanov, digital marketing strategist and speaker at SEMrush. How are you doing today, sir?
Good. How are you? It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. Fantastic to have you. Now, Paul, where are you hailing from tonight?
I am in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's 5:02 p.m.
and on top of that, you're over at the SEMrush's headquarters. No. Yeah. One of their offices, not the headquarters.
Yeah, it's secret headquarters. Yeah.
He's in a bunker in Philadelphia. So we're Facebook Live, everybody who's watching, and make sure that you join us. And on top of that, hey, ask questions of our guests as well as us as we conduct our interview, because this is an Edgecast, and we certainly want to be able to comment on everybody who's jumping on the stream and watching our show. This is going to be a fantastic show, a lot of great information in the history of SEO to begin with, because this guy's been doing this for quite a while. Now, you're only 27 years old, Paul. So I mean, literally, your history doesn't date back that far.
Yeah, I started in 8th grade, though.
Yeah, exactly. See, I'm getting that more and more. As we hire more millennials, I'm feeling older and older. I literally have been doing SEO more than some of these people.
I know, right?
Some of these interns have been alive.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, some of those high schoolers are close to having the number 2 at the beginning of the year of their birth date.
Oh, no.
Isn't that weird?
That is just wrong.
I remember managing movie theater in college, and all these kids were like born in the 90s that I was managing there, and I was like, are you kidding me? And now it's like, there are people with 2s.
Ain't right, man. It just ain't right. All right, so check out the podcast on all your favorite listening. Obviously, this show is kind of omni-channel. We're live stream. We obviously have our videos afterwards, as well as all of our aggregation into all the podcasting platforms. So you want to check it out on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, SoundCloud, Podbean, Spreaker, Acast. Those are the main ones. If we're not where you're listening to regularly, then you probably won't be hearing us. But maybe your friend will recommend, hey, get in touch with us, and we'll certainly bring our feed to where you're listening, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And we also have great YouTube presence as well.
Absolutely.
It's not really a podcast channel, but we got a lot of YouTube videos out there. I think there's 800 plus videos.
That's a lot of videos.
So, yes.
So, hey, this segment is actually brought to you by our sponsor, SEMrush, and it's who Paul works for as well. So, got to jump in there. The SEMrush is the world's leading competitive intelligence and keyword tool, trusted by over 1 million online marketers every day to give them the edge. Huh?
Yeah.
Never gets old. It never gets old. Give them the edge over their competition. So if you want to see exactly where your competitors are advertising online or where their organic value is, then head on over to SEMrush.com/edge of the web to get your 14-day free trial of the software. And I got to tell you, the software is amazing. We have actually migrated a good portion of our reporting techniques to SEMrush because of their offering. The product has just exploded over the last year. And honestly, Paul, give us a little bit of insight into what's been going on over at SEMrush.
Yeah, the company's growing. We just moved into a new office in Philadelphia. I think we have around 100 people in the Philadelphia office. We have a completely flat organizational structure. That means there's no managers.
Oh, wow.
That means that if I enjoy speaking and talking about marketing, I could do podcasts and video shows like this, and there's nobody that could stop me.
Wow. So you're breaking all constraints, and there's nobody to shackle you back, huh?
They let me out.
All right. Well, let's grab a hold of the news and check what's going on. All things in the latest digital marketing news realm. Go.
I was very excited to start my reportings.
This week's trending topics.
Sweet. All right. Hey, from Search Engine Journal, Google will actually roll out mobile-first index to individual sites that are ready. From Matt Southern. Tom, tell us about this particular bit of news.
So there's been a lot of news here recently about this mobile-first index. A lot of stuff that's coming out of SMX Advanced. So this article is kind of taking it next farther. John Mueller recently did a Google Webmaster Office Hour Hangout, and there he said that when Google rolls out its mobile-first index, it will begin by indexing individual sites that are ready for it. He went on to say that sites may or may not be informed of the mobile-first switch when it's changed for them, and that this presents a challenge when it comes to tracking analytics and ranking positions. I said on positive side, the article says here, on the positive side, with Google rolling out of the mobile-first index on a per-site basis, those that are prepared have a good chance of being indexed before others, and those that aren't ready for the mobile-first switch will have to wait a little bit longer to be indexed.
All right, for our listeners that may not be familiar with this concept, because I mean, the focus of this has been bouncing around for a number of months. What is mobile first?
So mobile first, essentially, right now. When Google does its algorithm, everything's based off a desktop. So now they're going to make all those ranking factors mobile based. And so if your website's mobile friendly, if it's all the links that are going to be based on mobile, based on the mobile index as well. And there's a lot of different factors that are but everything's switching from desktop from desktop to mobile. So there's a lot of, especially companies who aren't mobile friendly, will really be hurt by this. So they also recommended that your website's responsive. If you have a separate mobile website from your desktop version, that could be cause some major issues once this mobile index ranking rolls out here. So that's why they're doing it a site by site basis.
Oh, excellent.
They're delivering it in stages. So I read the article and I listened to the video, and I always had an interesting theory about this. And so my theory is as follows: like if you look at the attribution of devices, right? So if you look at your analytics and if you run AdWords campaign and actually look at the device attribution, so like the latest stat, I don't know where I got this, it's like 51.3% of your visitors are quote unquote using a mobile device. So now like it's officially like the majority are using mobile.
Yep. And that's considered tablet and anything that's non-desktop, right?
So this is my main, like this hypothesis that people are using devices that are in front of them. So it's not to say that 53% of visitors are only using mobile. It's just there's more devices. And so what ends up happening is that for example, like in the morning from 12 12 midnight to 7 a.m., right? You're using your mobile device. Maybe you're in bed and like me, something hits, you have a question. So you're like typing it into your mobile device.
Right.
You wake up in the morning, you're eating breakfast, you're on your mobile device. And then you get into work. It's like 10 o'clock. You're not ready to start yet. You need to warm yourself up. So you're maybe still on your mobile device.
Yep.
Don't tell anyone. And then, you go on your desktop. So then you're on your desktop device. So now you switch devices, right? And then maybe you come back home and then you're reading an article. So now an article, maybe you're on your tablet device. So I'm on my iPad device. So like people have more devices.
Yep.
And so what's my whole hypothesis when people say mobile index first, I believe that Google is going to prioritize based on your lowest performing device. So the way that I think about it, they're not going to just say content on mobile, 53 users, so we're going to prioritize that. What is going to start happening is they're going to say, people are browsing the content on more than one device. They're switching from device to device to device. And so it's like if you're driving a car, like your website is a car, right? Somebody comes to your website, they're inside your car, they're sitting there, they're driving, and then they go off-road. And then your car is bad off-road. It doesn't work off-road. But your content is being consumed in that span from the conversion path, like it's being consumed off-road. So Google's going to say, you're bad off-road, so we're going to judge you by the lowest performing device. And I think it's really important because people should prioritize making sure that their website works cross devices, because it's just content and it's experience, and Google's looking at user experience.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
I think that's really important. But yeah, when in 2018, I believe he said that it's going to be rolling out. I kind of have a feeling it's already rolled out, but he said in stages. So, okay.
Yep.
Then yeah, like you should, I always like monitor, like watch your rank like a hawk, like using the position tracking report in SEMrush or generating a position changes report, just to make sure that your keywords, your positions don't drop based on this algorithm update. But I think, cross device, not necessarily, you don't have to amplify your site, but you do have to have a responsive website, and you do have to pay attention to how your device, particularly mobile. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, my thing with the mobile versus the desktop, I kind of think Google's smart enough. Why can't they have a separate mobile and a separate desktop search? Why do they have to be
aggregated together?
Maybe somebody can, maybe they've answered that and somebody can comment and let me know. But I mean, it would make more sense to have a separate mobile algorithm and a desktop algorithm. And I mean, if that's where people are consuming their content, based on the algorithm, you should. Because I have a lot of websites that are great on desktop that haven't switched over to have a mobile website for whatever reason, whether it be budget or whatever, could be hit pretty hard.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I kind of think they don't want to do that because they want to look at your website as one car that could drive everywhere.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to prioritize mobile necessarily over desktop or tablet over desktop. They want to look at the user experience and looking at attribution cross devices. It's really hard, right? And so I think we're in this beginning stage where eventually there's more devices, and Google's like, no, one device. You have a car and it's driving, and it's experience.
Well, the only problem is, one of the biggest problems is attribution, because that user experience, you are going across different platforms, and that it throws off all numbers on the count. It's just how many people are actually experiencing your content. And at some point in time, we've got to get to the point where we're breaking the boundaries of those different device windows. And I mean, Google Chrome is certainly trying to do that, and having that logged in session to be able to move between different actual apertures or vantage points, right? Yeah. That's going to be that next boiling down of true attribution at a user level, wouldn't you say?
And as you say this, in my mind, what I'm thinking about is PWA. It's like progressive web apps. Yeah. Right. It's the idea that you're going to download the entire website and browse it offline, and have the same experience as you do online.
Yep.
So it's interesting to know. I think we're in the really early stages right now.
Yep.
And so it's a developing topic, and I think maybe next time when I'm on, we could discuss it further.
I'm thinking so. Yeah.
Like it's just device attribution is very difficult. I mean, we're still pulling out of hair doing regular attribution, cross-channel attribution. It's like it's the nightmare.
Yeah. Regarding nightmares, Facebook actually targets individual spammers with the latest news feed tweaks that they've done from Marketing Land. We've got another article here. Literally, Facebook has identified a small group of spammers and will penalize links that those accounts share more than the average Facebook user. Now, I think this is also tied into this clickbait Philippine issue. I mean, Paul, did you catch that? Where there was literally a bank of smartphones where people in the Philippines were actually charged to juice up the clicks of any given piece of content. I mean, there were thousands of phones over there. So Facebook, I think, is tying into this as a factor that they're trying to remove that type of click energy from. Facebook has actually noticed a tiny group of people on Facebook regularly and publicly posting a lot of links to spammy pages like clickbait articles, fake news stories. Now it's going to reduce the reach of those individuals' posts in the people's news feed, as well as the links that they share, frequently more than the average person. So this is their bot sniffing out. Yeah.
Yeah. Does this remind you of early Penguin?
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely is. It has all the earmarks. You better believe it.
Yeah. I have, so in 2006, Q4 earnings from Facebook, right? It's late 2006. And there was like a lot of headlines. This article's coming out with like Facebook has this really big issue, and the issue is max ad load, like for the advertising. I'll connect the advertising site.
Right.
I'll connect it in just a moment. And so the idea is like they're trying desperately to duplicate the GDN network. It's like you go advertise on Google, like you have thousands of placements, like Google can sell you all this inventory, and here you are in Facebook, and so the only inventory that they could sell you is within their network, right? So they're having this max ad load issue because as soon as they lose users, they have less awareness, they have less inventory to sell, they make less money. And so, like all top-tier networks, Facebook right now is really clearing out their inventory from an advertisement perspective.
Right.
Where they're creating brackets of like quality inventory will cost less to advertise than non-quality inventory. It's like, this ad will cost more, but this ad that could elicit an emotional response that our visitors like, that they engage with, will cost less.
Right. Got it.
And so now that they're cleaning out the inventory, now this article comes out. So now they're angling also from a user perspective, because when you're a part of a Facebook group and you have people promoting offer after offer after offer, and so me as a user, even if I'm just trying to enjoy this wonderful Facebook group that I just attended, and if people are spamming me and messaging me with these offers, it ruins my experience. Again, I might leave the actual net. I might leave Facebook. And so that opens up this really interesting economy, like this interesting hypothesis of now advertisers that advertise on Facebook, if they don't have really clear guidelines for their advertisers, like direct response marketing companies, for example. If you're in direct selling, like if they don't tell their people that are advertising their programs to stop with the spam, it will kick them out because it could affect them on both levels. On the advertising front, it's a problem. So I think it has similarities to what Google did in the very beginning with Panda, where it was very harsh penalties for your shenanigans in the very beginning until they got the data that they needed. And then slowly now with Google Penguin 4.0, that now it's like, okay, you're linked from bad neighborhoods. Right. It's okay. Like we'll just devalue the link.
Yep. Oh, that's an absolute accuracy there. So they are trying to evaluate this content, and you're If you're pushing regularly negative content or spammy content, anywhere you go, you're gonna get that. It's like whack-a-mole, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have that issue anywhere there's monetization of that content. Last article from CNET: Amazon, Etsy, and Reddit to join efforts to save net neutrality. The FCC is considering rolling back rules for an open network. So tech companies are banding together for a day of action. Tom, what have we got going on there?
Yeah, so tech companies, they said Amazon, Etsy, Vimeo, Reddit are all coming together for a day of action on July 12th to protest the potential rollback of net neutrality rules proposed by the FCC. They announced Tuesday that internet-wide day of action to save net neutrality will involve getting people to contact Congress and the FCC. See, net neutrality, like if you don't know, net neutrality is the idea that internet traffic is treated equally and internet service providers can't prioritize some traffic over others. So net neutrality made it possible for Vimeo, along with countless other startups, to innovate and thrive. The FCC's proposed rollback of the 2015 open internet rules threatens to impede that innovation and allow a handful of incumbent ISPs to determine winners and losers.
So what they were doing, and the perfect example was Comcast throttling back Netflix visibility and usage on their network, because obviously it was a direct challenge to users using their broadcast and subsequently seeing the advertisers that were on those stations. There is the debate of, hey, they put in this infrastructure first, and then all of these latecomers, Netflix is still considered a latecomer to the broadband execution. They were benefiting from a heck of a lot of lost revenue of the investment of this infrastructure.
Yep.
So there's two sides to look at this, and you're certainly seeing now a new resurgence of the net neutrality push. Because all these platforms that didn't invest in all that hardware and all that firmware and all the networking costs to bring broadband as a open commodity now, right? They're trying to make sure that they don't get choked by these vendors. So I'm not saying where I stand on this. However, you can't just have a full focus of net neutrality without understanding what the argument is.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah,
I will try to capture that moment for posterity, because I probably couldn't say it again. But if you want to hear what we're talking about regularly, then subscribe to our newsletter. You can simply text to the number 22828, the word Edge Talk, all one word, Edge Talk, and you can sign up right then and there, right from your smartphone, or simply just go with your smartphone to edgeofthewebradio.com, and you can sign up for our newsletter right there. The newsletter covers everything that we've done last show, who we talked to, some aha moments from our guests, as well as who we're going to be talking to here in the very future, and some useful information and surveys and what have you. So it's a great resource for getting caught up on the news that we're talking about. And on top of that, we're not going to use your email for anything else except sending you pieces of digital gold. That's what we're talking about. Free for you. It's just a great way for us to say thank you for being a watcher and a listener to Edge of the Web Radio. All right. Follow all of our trending topics over at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now, let's deep dive with this week's featured guest.
Now it's time for our Edge of the Web featured interview with Paul Klebanov, marketing strategist and speaker at SEMrush.
Well, how about that for an intro, Paul?
Awesome.
Hey, all right. So for our listeners and for our viewers online, Paul Klebanov, he's a marketing strategist and speaker over at SEMrush. He is one of the youngest Americans to build a leading e-commerce retailer. That's PPL Stores LLC. Today, he actually teaches businesses to craft effective marketing strategies through coaching, training, and speeches in conferences like Growth Marketing New York, IMX, and International E-commerce Day. Did you know that there was an International E-commerce Day?
I did not.
Not to be confused with International Bacon Day.
And National Fried Chicken Day. Is today.
Sorry, National Fried Chicken Day. National Fried Chicken Day is today. So anyway, you can't order fried chicken online, or I'm sure you can, but National E-commerce Day is a real thing. So Paul, tell us a little bit about your backstory and the story behind the PPL stores, and don't save all the juicy tidbits. Go.
All right. So, like you mentioned, I had a fairly large e-commerce business. And then what happened was when I first started, my main goal was to rank for all the bottom of the funnel keywords. So the keywords, the inquiry and decision stage. And so I wanted to carry all the top name brand products in the space. My idea was simple, wasn't very scientific. I was like, look, if I could piggyback off of this awareness of grandma went to a brick and mortar store, she looked at the couch, she sat in it, she liked the leather, then she would go online, she would Google the brand name with the SKU. I could piggyback off of that and sell her that leather couch. And so in 2011, I made the top internet retailers in the US. I had over 30,000 name brand products. And then in 2014, I had 4 major flagship sites. And then by early 2015, I was blacklisted and banned from selling online. And I was put on basically a blacklist. That means I can't, like I said, can't
do anything online. Yeah, that's a bit of a big thing, Paul.
Yeah. So it's not forever. Like, people get put on the blacklist for a lot of different reasons. One of them is fraud. Luckily for me, I got put in for high chargeback rates and for selling products that I wasn't registered to sell. Wells Fargo was like, what are you selling? I gave them ceramic tile when I started. Then as I expanded, I forgot to update them. I didn't let them know. And they have different risk tolerances for different categories. They have reserves depending on how much revenue you have. So they keep a certain amount of reserves.
Right.
Make a long story short, grandma called in because I carried this product online. I'll tell the story maybe a little bit later. I carried this brand name of product. It wasn't, so back then I was just looking at volume. All right. I wasn't a really great marketer. Like, I would go into a tool like SEMrush, right? I would put in like, make a list of brand names. And I was like, 30,000 searches a month. This is so much awareness that I could tap into. So what happened was I carried this product, this name brand product that had, I believe, 100,000 searches a month, but I didn't look at the CPC costs. It was like 10 cents a click. And I was like, why is it so low? It didn't hit me. So I made an account with the manufacturer, literally stalked the guy. There was one sales rep for this manufacturer, and it was like cross country. And so it took me like 6 months to open up an account with this company. Once they opened me, I started selling their product, but it was veneer furniture. It wasn't made out of real wood. Make the long story short, grandma got it, furniture broke. And she called the bank. She's like, my furniture's broken. I want my money back. They asked her who she bought it from. She said PPL stores. They're like, they're not supposed to be selling furniture. Put my account under review. Oy vey, like the whole thing just went. Make the long story short, business failed, collapsed. I started looking for a job, and I was like, I don't want to. And my focus was split in that business. And so I was like, I love marketing. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Right.
So I started looking for a marketing position, and I came into SEMrush, and they saved me because I could focus on what I love, like talking here with you guys, the audience. Like, this is what I like doing. I love marketing. And so here I am for 1 year and 7 months.
Oh, very cool. Well, I got a question for you. We're not going to get blacklisted by talking to you, are we?
I don't think so. We'll see what happens.
Maybe Facebook is watching and we're on their naughty list that we talked about earlier.
I didn't realize I could get into so much trouble by just selling couches. It's
Just don't sell to grandmas, man. I mean, that's the lesson here, you know?
Yeah.
So you ended up at SEMrush, and so tell us about for our listeners and viewers who haven't experienced SEMrush. Shame on everybody that hasn't. But I mean, tell us about SEMrush, the platform and the tools and you know what they do over there.
So SEMrush gives you a complete competitive landscape. So if you're actually like you have a slightest clue about marketing, which I didn't have back then, and you could actually make a list of your competitors, go into the tool, put in the domain, it'll show you exactly which keywords they're ranking for. More importantly, or equally as importantly, I should say, it'll show you exactly where they're advertising online. So what placements they're buying in Google, what ads are they buying. And then if you're like, I have this piece of furniture and it's getting 100,000 searches a month, but nobody's bidding to actually pay to advertise it, then maybe there's a reason nobody wants to sell this. Maybe there's a reason. So if you could connect those dots, which I couldn't do, then maybe you could save yourself from the heartache. So I think it's success leaves clues. And so SEMrush allows you to completely reverse engineer your competitors. Like you can get a complete competitive landscape before you even buy inventory or buy media online. Before you do your keyword strategy, you can just look at your competitors and steal all their secrets.
Yeah, exactly. The wake they leave behind. And that's what's really interesting. I go back in history on SEO. I've been doing this for, about 25 years now. And some of the software that we used to use maybe a decade and a half ago, I remember Keyword Spy was one that gave us a great perspective of that wake that was coming behind. But as soon as SEMrush got on the scene, the snapshot was improved, and we were seeing some clarity, And as soon as they rolled out ad history, then you could actually start seeing what your competitors were doing in that space and what they were changing over time. So you can start seeing where, if they're smart marketers, you don't get thrown off by some idiots out there.
So I have I love to watch my competitors. I like to watch sites like a hawk. Right? I know that sounds really strange. I could give you some insights that I got from the tool when I was running my e-commerce business, like the discoveries I made, just from watching what my competitors are doing.
Yep.
So you notice when you even go to SEMrush and look at the display network and you start seeing where they advertise online, where they buy placements, is it Forbes, is it Inc., where are they buying their media? So I started noticing little things. I would look at Wayfair, right, which was my competitor at the time.
Sure.
It was a huge $1 billion business, and I was I want to be like Wayfair one day. So I was just clicking on the ads, right? I made a list of my competitors, and what I started to notice is something very interesting. So who here, I'm sure maybe your audience wants to know, I discover how you can literally get a discount on any product.
Right.
This is how you do it. And so I click on an ad, so it's a placement. They're buying it, right? So they want to recoup their costs as soon as possible. So somebody clicks on the retargeting ad or the actual ad. So I click on it, and what I notice is when I click on it, I add the product to my shopping cart and I leave it there, right? I do nothing. And so what starts to happen is after a certain amount of time, they started creating these discount ladders. But these discount ladders weren't for everyone. It was only for particular people clicking on a particular ad at a particular time. And so if I would leave the cart in my shopping cart, they would send me a discount right after. Maybe they would wait a day or two. They would create these segments, right?
Yep.
So if I'm in there from 0 to 15 days, from 0 to 180 days, then from 15 to 180 days, from 30 to 180 days, they would carve out these segments and they would send me discounts based on if I left my cart, the first email would be oh, maybe you were on your mobile device, you forgot that you added the product.
Yep.
The second thing would be a discount. And so as I started to think about these discount ladders, I started to mirror that and implement it within my e-commerce store. I started doing things like layering channels. And I could get into that. So a lot of it's just they planted a seed of an idea, and then my crazy mind, I would just think of how to improve it and how to make it better. So whenever I reverse engineer my competitors, I would go through the buyer's process of adding the products, buying them, and I would always have my business hat on. I would always write these little notes down, and this is how I got most of my ideas.
That's fantastic, and that goes to a particular concept of digital marketing, is that you can't you can't engineer your competition unless you're experiencing it, unless you're at the site, you're walking through the process, and you're seeing what that consumer's seeing, and it doesn't actually start just at the experience of the website. It's also pre-website, as people are searching, as you're going through, as you're looking at the SERPs, as you're looking at the context, the topography of all these different moving pieces that is the sea of persuasion marketing, right? It's all right there, and be able to see changes as the different marketers are making efforts to bring you over to our side of the fence, and then if they're smart enough to be able to, and if they have enough of a well-oiled machine to be able to articulate those changes all the way through. I mean, you can get lost in the sea of competitor analysis, but if you're experiencing it as a consumer, you start wearing that hat, you know what's going to trigger you, and then with the coupons and the discounts that they're doing to implore that consumer back, you see their messaging.
Yeah, let me give you a really specific example of what kind of ideas that gave me. Like, so when I started seeing the discount ladder, so like my first click attribution in the very beginning, as I said, I was targeting the bottom of the funnel keywords. So my first click attribution was the organic search, right? And so when I started running paid traffic in the very beginning, I thought I was a great marketer. I was good at SEO, but then I lost $10,000 on my first campaign. I realized that I was a horrible marketer. Like, I knew nothing about psychology. I was awful. So when I started reverse engineering my competitors, what started happening is, to piggyback off of that specific idea, so those discount ladders. So I'm like, okay, the user came in organically, so I'm losing money trying to acquire new customers, new visitors, and converting those visitors with PPC. I'm not a great marketer yet. So I'm like, maybe I could save the existing visitors that I have. Okay. So looking from a CRO, conversion rate optimization standpoint. So then I developed it further. I'm like, okay, how about I give them a retargeting ad to a general newsletter? So if grandma came in looking for like a Pulaski dresser, organically, first click attribution, she comes in, clicks organic, goes to the product details page. I retarget a generic newsletter, a general newsletter on discount offers for Pulaski. That's my first layer, right? Yep. Grandma comes in, she wants a discount. So what I do with grandma is, I come from a programming background, so I do GeoIP. So I ask for name and email address. That's it. Yep. Very short form. As grandma comes in, I'm like, grandma's located in Florida because I have her IP. Yep. I pass it into the little string, drop, get her IP, and then all my products, that product is mapped to distributors. And distributors are shipped, like I have distributors cross regionally, like they're in different countries. So if grandma's in Florida and I have a distributor in Florida, her next retargeting ad would be, I would pass on the discount. So if I have to pay $300 to ship this product to Texas, but grandma's in Florida and I have a distributor in Florida, then I only pay $50. Oh, wow. So in order to convert grandma on that bottom of the funnel, because the main sticking point on the bottom of the funnel, well, there's a few, but the main one is price. Remember I said grandma went to the brick and mortar, she looked at the couch, she sat in it, comfortable, she wants a better price. I could give grandma a better price because of her geographic location. So her next retargeting ad is that dresser with 30% discount, with call for better price. Wayfair can't compete with that. So what I'm suggesting is as you have your business hat on, as you're reverse engineering your competitors, this is where like those ideas start to come in. And so after the way I started scaling is I figured out that instead of trying to acquire new visitors with PPC, why don't I try to save the visitors that I already have? And so I used PPC as an aid to convert visitors into prospects. And then that's how I got into inbound marketing. And so that was really successable for me until I got blacklisted.
Well, yeah. Again, we're talking about not selling to grandma. I think we have a problem here, Paul. But yeah, so I mean, it is competitive intelligence. It's also engineering down to that granular level. You just can't push it out and expect content to serve itself. You've got to be smart. You've got to have the moving mechanisms to be able to adjust just exactly like what you're talking about. You have to have that complexity and have to know that you're really affecting a logistics system, not a transaction system, right? I mean, you've got to have that flexibility to be able to have those distributors in your example, but at the same time, I mean, there's so many levels of granularity and layers of messaging that you can do, and still save a buck or save your margin and get that pricing down to. And it is one of the factors of the consumer's journey. That's not the only factor.
I could give you another example of specific, really simple messaging that improved my conversion rate. I think it was like 10% at the time, 11%. It was like the most simplest messaging in the world, and I just made one little tweak. That's it. So when I spoke at IMX, it was like a room full of e-commerce people that sold online and they saw physical products. And they were targeting top of the funnel, a lot of them. And I'm like, what? Bottom of the funnel only has a few sticking points, right? One of the other ones is risk reversal, right? So one of the simple talk about messaging psychology is when you buy, back to grandma, so grandma comes in and she wants to.
You're not going to let that go, are you?
She wants to buy the couch, and when you put 30 days money back guarantee on your site, grandma's thinking about the return. Like when you buy anything, 30 days, you're like, I have 30 days to return it, especially if it's a big item. It comes in, it takes 7 days to ship. What if it breaks? Like it's in your mind. Like it's a sticking point.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, okay, what if I change it to 60 days? So will my chargebacks increase? Will my refunds increase? Like I didn't know it was a hypothesis. I didn't read it in a book. I didn't know it was just a hypothesis. And so I'm like, okay, so I changed it. And what happened was it improved the conversions on the front end because you're doing risk reversal, right? It's less risky. If you have more days to refund the product. And at the same time, once you're not thinking about it, so your conversions on the front end increase, but on the back end, you don't have more chargebacks. In my case, I didn't. I still had chargebacks, as we know, but I didn't have more of them. And my refund stayed the same. So simple tweaks like that to your messaging, right? Especially on the bottom of the funnel. Like on the bottom of the funnel, it's literally price, literally testimonials of proof of customers using your company with success, that you didn't defraud them, you didn't do that, you returned the products if they didn't like it. And so like testimonials, proof, and price, it's like three big sticking points on the bottom of the funnel. And people target the top of the funnel right away when they first start. And then they're like, I can't convert anything. Well, because they're not educated on the product. You need more nurturing. You need more time. You need more salespeople. You need more interactions with the customer. It's harder to convert on the top of the funnel. That's it. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It's just more difficult.
No, do more with the traffic that you have. We always talk about that. I mean, leverage that first. Don't go fishing in the big waters and have high CPAs all the way through, high CTRs all the way through. Don't go there unless you've built your model first, right? And unless you leverage as much as you can in those conversion paths. Paul, asking a couple questions here. If we could get into some of the PPC SEO realm, because I know we talked a little bit prior to going live. How do you look at keyword optimization in today's search landscape? Is keyword optimization still a good tactic?
So the way that I like to think about this is, I don't like the phrase keyword optimization, because there's
neither do we.
First of all, you want to look at topics like just to give you let me give you some context. So with the Google algorithm of Google RankBrain, right? So with Google RankBrain, it's literally bots in Google. Like none of the engineers at Google are allowed to physically alter the algorithms. Like they can't go into the line of code and like alter the algorithm that determines the rank of your site. It's all done through machine learning. So machine learning, like they literally go on and they read article after article after article after article, becoming an expert on a particular topic. So you might think that if this is all done through machine learning, that Google knows more about bodybuilding than Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like it knows more about physics than Isaac Newton, than more about Albert Einstein. Like they know more about cars than Tesla CEO, I can't believe Elon Musk, right? So when you write a piece of content, like first, it would be great if you were an expert on the topic that you're writing about. And the reason for that is because you can't, like with SEO, I'll give you an example, like SEO ideas, you can put in a keyword and we're going to give you the semantically related keywords in SEMrush. So like Google's not looking at the keyword and its meaning, it's looking at the context around it and seeing if you're filling out that context in the article. Right? Yep. So if I'm talking about bodybuilding, I can't just write bodybuilding and talk about cars. I know it's an extreme example. Like, yeah, I'm talking about macronutrients. I'm talking about proteins. I'm talking about steroids, how they negatively affect your health. And then even if I can't cover the entire topic, because it'll be a book, I link out to internal pieces of content that add context around those semantically related terms. And so stop thinking about keywords and start thinking about topics and the words that those topics are comprised of, because you have to be in line with Google.
Absolutely.
We all know the algorithm updates, like the exact match domains. Like there was an algorithm update targeting exact match domains. An algorithm update targeting specific, that what I just said is an update targeting keyword stuffing. So
what you're saying is, I mean, these are obviously old school concepts,
updates, but they were created for a reason.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So you keep on coming back around to consumer intent. Yeah. Consumer intent is absolutely the most authentic place to be able to market, and all your messaging, all your visuals, all your content should be in that space. Now, the problem is that keyword stuffing can naturally happen unless you as a marketer are deliberately cleaning your content in a way that is not tripping over that live wire, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so when I with the Google rank, like I have a quote that said, great marketers make even greater psychologists, right?
Yeah.
So let me I want to tackle your sentiment like in a few different ways. The first thing is updating your content, right? So if you have, like when you do keyword research and you have your topic keywords, if you create like a group of like 5 keywords, then what you can do is if you have all the semantically linked keywords and you have a really tight group of keywords, like in SEMrush, we have this thing called keyword difficulty. The idea of keyword difficulty is really simple. Like we have SEMrush rank, which is the top 100,000 domains online. So the idea is when you search a keyword in Google, and if Google has a difficult time finding a site, which is in our database of the top 100,000 domains, and they're not ranking those sites in the top 20 pages, then it's having a really difficult time finding a good answer to that query. And so what ends up happening is the keyword difficulty score for that keyword is now lower. So it's from 0 to 100. So what you can start doing when you do your keyword research is try to target the keywords that have the lower keyword difficulty score, because that shows a relevance gap, that shows an opportunity with just a great piece of content to rank your page. That's the first thing. The second thing is the way that I think about keywords. Once you have all those related keywords, you take your main keywords. Once you get enough trust and your article ranks for the least difficult keyword, then what you just, I believe, hinted on, you can update your content to include the second highest competitive keyword. Change it in the title, and you can level up because you're leveling up trust.
Right,
does that make sense?
Yep, sure does.
So that's how I would go about specifically updating my content, is just creating very tight keyword groups and then trying to rank all of the keywords and starting from the least competitive and working your way up. My favorite thing to tell people always when they look at SEO, it's like when I looked at SEO, it's like, I got to write an article on my domain and I got to rank this article, right? And then they look at all the trust factors that we look at for the website. And so there's 2 things that you can do immediately. First, you can pitch other sites. So you can go to Inc., you can go to Forbes, you could make a list of the top sites in your space, and you can pitch them, and you can rank articles with a link to your site on domains that already have a lot of trust. Just write content for other channels. That's it. Rank those sites. The second thing is that if you recall, back in the day, there was a concept called author rank.
Yep.
Right. And this is another crazy theory of mine. Author rank, because author rank is still alive. Like, I know that if Arnold Schwarzenegger was to write an article on bodybuilding, and he would have a completely new domain with no trust factors at all. Mm-hmm. And if Google could verify, because his entire social graph, his verified Facebook page, his LinkedIn page, his verified Twitter page, his entire social graph is on that article.
Right.
That Arnold Schwarzenegger wrote an article about bodybuilding. They're going to rank that article, prioritize that article over trust factors of the actual domain and even the quality of the content, because somebody with authority wrote it. Matt Cutts even had a quote about this. I don't recall the exact quote, but he said it like, it's not only about the content and about the actual channel. I don't have the exact quote. It's about the people who write them. So when you associate your name with other channels that are authorities in the space, mm-hmm. that carries over when you write a piece of content on your site.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I would completely agree with you. Author rank is still valuable, but I mean the engines are paying attention to all those signals. So there's always been the contingents or the consternation about social media and how it is it's its own beast. It literally is the authority that is passed back over to each and every piece of content that you're writing. But it's that ecosystem, these spheres of influence that pass value back over to those individual pieces and gives the opportunity to those pieces of content to rank even better.
Yeah. Let me just take this one step further to show that, like, the complexity of Google, right? So there's a thing in marketing, right, that's called, there's like these 167 cognitive biases. There's the flaws in the human decision-making process. Like, our brains are computers made out of meat, and they have flaws, right? One of the cognitive biases is the authority bias. So if Oprah says something, you deem her as an authority, that holds more weight in your mind. So the same holds true. Like, Google's just mirroring already fundamental concepts into their algorithms. They're not recreating anything new. They're just trying to qualify it and quantify it. That's it. And so from that perspective, it works the same way. Just as if you were to talk to someone mm-hmm. and you were to read an article about them in Forbes, you would deem them as an authority. Google's doing the same thing with their content and prioritizing it the same way as you would with the human mind.
And even grandma. I think that's
even grandma.
I think she's got one of those 167 flaws in her meathead.
I know. That's why I got blacklisted.
Back to your story. I'm surprised that she called the bank. She was that savvy enough to.
Yeah. So like, this is a lesson for the audience. Your credit card is your biggest safety net. Like, because if you buy anything online and you don't like it, you call the retailer and they say no to you, you're like, okay, I'm going to call the bank and give you a chargeback. And then you're going to be like Paul. Like,
I don't know if I'm going to be like Paul. Hey, a couple last questions. I do want to get back to the funnel. How should companies adapt to the funnel-based successes and failures that we see in the competitive landscape? So we're talking about funnels, and for our listeners, I mean, it literally it's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's the awareness level funnels that we talk about in the buyer's journey. First and foremost, the awareness of a problem, then the consideration layer where you're actually considering the options because you've now understood the solution to your problem, and then the decision making phase, and that's where your testimonials, your understanding what that business does with its customers after they're a customer. All these things. Well, if you're seeing poorly executed strategies on the top of the level, top of the funnel level from your competitors, how can you adapt and what can you learn from that? How do you learn from that?
Yeah, you learn from other people's mistakes.
Absolutely.
You just learn from other people's mistakes. Like, I recommend that everyone like pick up a book on consumer psychology, right? And just like read about like consumer psychology. Like it's like this simple idea of when I was first into SEO, right? Imagine like using we're talking right now, like we could get into like behavioral based pitching, like pitching not based on what you say, but what you do, and using emails like service provider, like Infusionsoft, right? Or Acton that we use in SEMrush.
Right.
Imagine trying to sell me that when I had no idea why I would need it. Like I wasn't even aware of the problem, right?
Exactly.
You need to just understand that you can sell at every stage of the funnel, right? You just need to be aware of the stages. And like you just said, be aware of what specifically the person needs, what kind of messaging they need, at what time, and where they are in the buyer's process, so you can take them by the hand. There was a religious monk in the medieval times. He was like the first big marketer. I don't know if you know St. Thomas Aquinas. He marketed religion, Christianity.
Absolutely.
I like to equate the two, like religion of the mind, religion of beliefs, with marketing conversion. And he said it so plainly. He's like, if you want to convert someone from a non-believer to a believer, the only thing that you have to do is sort of just walk over to them, introduce yourself, say hello, take them by the hand, and guide them to where you want them to go. So map out everything before, and use your competitors to see what they're doing wrong and what they're doing right. Get ideas. Success leaves clues.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Success leaves clues. You're absolutely right. But the conversion rate of the Great Inquisition leaves a little bit to be desired, just to capitalize on your analogy there. Hey, there's so much good information, Paul, and it's great to be able to speak with you. Can you give us an idea of what content marketing and maybe lead generation advice you'd have for the young marketer? Those ones that are starting with a 2-0 in their birthday. Because here's the deal: is that you and we've learned from our pains, right? We've learned from our mistakes. There are new marketers getting in that don't have that knowledge, and a disciplined marketer learns and reads and understands from once they come, so they can actually benefit from those examples. But for that fresh new mind, that fresh new marketer, what kind of advice would you give them?
Yeah, the first thing is like, people always say like you learn from your mistake. I don't want to learn from my mistakes. Like I rather listen, like if somebody's listening to them learning from my mistakes and not doing what I did. Like learn from others. So success leaves clues, failures leave clues. Here's the biggest thing that I want to say that really, so right now, what's happening in the market, like technological advances, everything is becoming so much easier. Like all of the stuff that I'm talking about, when I got started, I literally had to hire a developer, right, overseas. And then I had to like communicate, write specifications. 99.9% of the stuff that I had to program, you can do now with off-the-shelf solutions. But the issue that I see is that a lot of people fall into this, like, I want to call it technology trap, where they look at the technology and they work backwards. It's not so much like I have this hypothesis and I need to execute on it. So what tools do I need to help me get there? It's like, here's this new shiny object like Infusionsoft or Drip just came out, or whatever the tool is, I want to use that, and then they work backwards. So I think that's one of the biggest issues. Like figure out what it is that you want to do, and then map the tools to be able to deliver and actually execute on that. I think those were like one of the big things. People come up to me all the time. What CRM should I use? Should I use WordPress? Should I use Drupal, Magento, Xcart, Infusionsoft, Aweber, like Drip, Infusionsoft, Acton? It's all behavioral-based pitching. They're all basically the same.
Right. It is. You've got to come at marketing as if you're a scientist,
Yeah.
and you're trying to prove a hypothesis.
Hypothesis. Yeah.
Trying to prove a hypothesis, and you've got to set controls. You have to have a baseline. You have to understand that you can't do multivariate testing without knowing what you're testing. I mean, these things are so they're paramount, and new marketers, I mean, they're going from their gut, and they're not really leveraging the tools that they've got that have been honed over a decade and a half, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like when you first start and you do split testing, and there's multivariant testing, like when you're split testing every variant, like when you have a basic, like what I talked about in my e-commerce store with that simple messaging of just the risk reversal, like that's a hypothesis that I tested. Testing a button from blue to red is not going to give me that type of return. I'm sorry. It might squeeze out 0.03%. And so when you're generating $10 million, that amounts to money, right?
Yeah.
But in the beginning, like you have to get the fundamentals right.
No, you're absolutely right. Speaking of, okay, I'm going to get into this. What bugs you about your industry right now?
What bugs me?
Yes.
There's a lot of things.
Besides grandma, I'm taking grandma off the table.
Yeah,
You've abused her too much today.
Yeah. So what bugs me? I think the technology and people like working backwards. I don't think people, I don't know if value is the right word. They value the discipline of consumer psychology, like the importance of it. Mm-hmm. Like the importance of being able to formulate a hypothesis that is founded on these founded principles, and being able to then layer the technology and do the multivariant testing and the split testing based on these founded principles will get you a really long way. Like you can create a sales funnel that's going to convert very highly, and then once you add all those layers, you're going to squeeze out that extra 2, 3, 4%. That's why I like to say great marketers make even greater psychologists, right? And then the biggest gift that you have is your ability in today's world to actually look at what your competitors are doing, what mistakes are they making. You mentioned the ad history tool. I mean, you can literally make a list of your competitors, and you can go back in time and see what they did and why they're not running these ads again. Like what happened? What are they running based on seasons? Like you get insight where you can learn from other people's mistakes.
Absolutely. All right. So now you've flogged the industry. What excites you about your industry in the same vein?
Yeah, in the same vein, it's like I'm an ultimate contradiction. The technology is what I love too, because like I mentioned before, the things people, if you're building like a sales funnel for your business right now, and you need like an email CRM and you need to build landing pages, like Google Analytics is free. Like you can start off with Aweber. You don't have to do behavioral-based pitching. And now with the Drip, like when Drip came out, with Drip, you could do behavioral-based pitching based on what people do, not what they say, right? With Aweber, you can do behavioral-based pitching, but for Drip, you don't have to pay $500 a month. And I'm not affiliated with Drip, by the way. I'm just suggesting that the cost of entry, right, is so low.
Yes.
Your real handicap is just, frankly, just not understanding those principles and being able to piece the puzzle correctly so it works to your advantage and not your disadvantage.
No, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So I got to ask you where you're speaking next, because you're certainly out in the circuit running around there, right?
Yeah. I think my next speaking engagement is a digital summit. So I'm doing a few digital summits. I think my next one is in Detroit, Digital Summit Detroit. I just did a webinar today. I'm doing a webinar. I don't have the dates right now. Hannipin, Hero PPC.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did one with them in the past. So yeah, like you can, if anybody, you can find like my talks online. Just if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Paul, it's been a pleasure. Is there anything that we can promote for you today?
Yeah, just the SEMrush. Like if you guys want a 14-day free trial of SEMrush, then you can get into the tool. You can play around for free. You can get access to the Guru plan and yeah, so
hey, there it is right there. Look,
SEMrush.com/edge of the web. And again, thank you to you guys, thank you for supporting us and supporting the tool. Like the tool is really like it's like an obsession. I don't even know how I get any work done. Like I'm like in the tool all the time.
That's the truth. That is absolutely the truth.
When I started getting into these habits, like I have an external hard drive, and all I have on this hard drive is just ads. Like I just export ads all the time, and I have like banner ads in all different sizes. And then I started creating like these pockets of like, there's like these 7 deadly sins, like sloth, laziness, pride, and I just started putting them in these little these little buckets. It's like an obsession.
I think you're right.
The tool allows me to spy on my competitors. It lets me see what they're doing. I'm like, I would do this better. We're gonna have to cut you off, Paul. I mean, has to be an intervention at some point in time. Stop stalking your competitors. No, don't stop stalking. Use SEMrush, and we certainly appreciate their sponsorship regularly. We can follow Paul over at Twitter at Paul Klebanov, Klebanov, on Facebook, Paul Klebanov, LinkedIn as well, and he's got all the socials. Yeah, you can't swing a dead cat and not hit Paul Klebanov, right? All right, man. Hey, thanks so much for your time. It was certainly a pleasure to speak with you, and we'll love to have you in studio if you're coming through Indianapolis, and I'm sure we're going to cross paths again. So, at the end of this, we always ask, hey, share and share often. We want to make sure that your voice gets out there, and we'll be having the podcast coming up the following Tuesday, and some social insights of everything that we've covered today. There's a lot more that we could go into, but we got to save this for the next show. Awesome, guys! I'd love to come back in the studio.
Okay.
Looking at it, awesome.
We've got great, especially during happy hour. It's always a great time. Hey, Paul, thanks so much, and be safe over at the SEMrush offices in Philadelphia. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Take care.
All righty. Thanks for listening to Edge of the Web Radio. Special thanks to our guests as well as my colleague, Tom Broadbeck. Make sure that you see all of the must-see videos over at edgeofthewebradio.com, edgeofthewebradio.com. We'll talk to you next week. Be sure to not be a piece of cyber driftwood, and don't go after the grandmas like that. Man, too weird. All right. Take care. We'll see you next week.